have a question. How many ears
Two.
are in human organism?
Two.
How many? More?
3.
More?
4.
More?
6.
6. 6 ears. You can ask what do you
Where?
mean why 6? Because we have paired external ear. It's paired, yes. Paired middle ear and paired internal ear. So we have 6 ears. So external ear consists of 2 parts. The first part is auricle, or it's called also pinna, and external acoustic meatus. So 2 parts of external ear. The pinna itself, or auricle, consists of cartilage that is covered with skin. The main function of this part is cosmetic and protective function. Does it amplify, increase sound?
No,
Nearly no,
nothing.
nearly no. During ancient time, yes, the population didn't know is it amplifier or no, therefore when it was deafness or other disorders, they tried to fix any tubes on the surface of the skull, but it did not help. Also, it protects against the foreign bodies to get inside the external acoustic meatus. The main function of this part is to locate sound, to understand what is the source, direction of sound. In some animals, there are muscles which are well developed, and as a result of the noise, they rotate, they move the ears, auricle, but the person is not able to do it because the muscles of ears are rudimentary developed, yes, the muscles of head, auricular muscles. Only a few people which are able to move ears, you know it, it's rudimentary. Therefore, what we are doing, if there is noise, we rotate our head to the side of us, yes, to understand what is the direction of noise, to understand where is sound from. It has several parts, and only one part that is without cartilage is called lobulus. Other parts constitute of different portions, such as the tragus and antitragus, helix and anthelix. So the external features of it will be described in your textbook. External acoustic meatus, it composes of 2 parts. One is cartilaginous part, the second is bony part. It has S shape, and due to this S shape form, it increases sound 3 times in comparison with atmosphere, with external environment. It conducts sound towards the tympanic membrane, border between external and middle ear. Important to understand the connections between external acoustic meatus and other nearby structures. The superior is the cranial medial fossa. The fracture of this region results in the cerebrospinal fluid, blood entrance to the meatus. Inferior wall contacts with parotid gland, and the inflammation of this gland is risky for the manifestation of inflammation towards the external acoustic meatus. In front of it, there is a temporomandibular joint, and in the cases of the fractures or any disorders of temporomandibular joint, it's also risky to manifest it towards the external acoustic meatus. And behind there are the cells of the mastoid process of temporal bone. Again, in the case of their inflammation, it's risky to get it for the external acoustic meatus. Well, the function of it is to increase sound 3 times and to conduct it towards the tympanic membrane. Tympanic membrane is unique structure because it also part of the air conducting pathways, but what is more, it transforms sounds with high amplitude and weak, but they are transformed into low amplitude but strong. So it increases sound 30 decibels, so a lot of times. It has several parts. The inferior part is called pars tensa. It has 3 layers, skin, mucosa layer, and also between them the connective tissue. The upper part is flexible part without connective tissue on the skin and mucous layer, and it's called flaccida part flaccida. This is the wall between external and middle ear. Middle ear composes of tympanic cavity and auditory tube. Tympanic cavity has 6 walls. Tympanic cavity is inside the petrous part of temporal bone, and we should repeat the structure of temporal bone for next time. It's from your previous term. So now it's temporal bone, but artificial one, it's model. To show the tympanic cavity walls, let's remind the surfaces of the temporal bone. For example, this surface is called the jugular wall of tympanic cavity because the jugular foramen, jugular fossa are located here. The posterior wall, this wall, is called mastoid because mastoid process of temporal bone is nearby. This wall, lateral wall, is membranous wall because it's created by the tympanic membrane. The medial wall is labyrinthine wall because it's formed by the internal ear or labyrinth. Superior wall is tegmental wall, and this tegmental wall is the border between cavity of skull and tympanic cavity. And we have anterior wall that is called carotid wall because internal carotid artery passes it, this one. The opening, internal opening of the carotid canal located here. What is more, we have inside the ossicles which are included in the heinous book because they are the smallest bones of the human body. They are the smallest bones of the human body. The first is malleus. The second is incus, and the third is stapes. So you should be able to take it correctly to connect them in your hands. So you can do it in your hands, or you can do it on the surface of the table. So if it's on the surface of the table, and this is our tympanic membrane, the first bone that contacts with tympanic membrane is malleus. The handle of malleus, manubrium, contacts with tympanic membrane like this, and the surface of the head of malleus contacts with the body of incus, like this. The short limb of incus, this short one, is directed towards the mastoid wall, but if it's on the plane, upwards. The long crus longus should be parallel to the manubrium of malleus. Stapes, it has shorter anterior limb and longer posterior limb. This one is stapes, and the base of stapes directed to the side, opposite to the side of the tympanic membrane. This is correct location of ossicles on the plane. If you would like to take it correctly in your hands, and this is our tympanic membrane, manubrium of malleus contacts with tympanic membrane, like this. The posterior surface of the head contacts with the body of incus, like this one. And the last one, stapes, with the anterior shorter crus, directed forward, like this, whilst the posterior longa is backwards. It's also correct location in your hands. So it's included in your practical skills. The appearance of the ossicles is described in your textbook. You should learn it by heart in details. The role of them is to conduct air from the air conducting part of the external ear to the fluids of internal ear. What is more, in the tympanic cavity there are two muscles. The first of them is tensor tympani muscle. It increases the tension of the tympanic membrane. The second is the stapedius muscle. Stapedius muscle is attached to the stapes, and it has the protective role, plays a protective role, because it pushes the stapes backwards to the tympanic cavity. Well, there are 3 ossicles and 2 muscles in the tympanic cavity. The auditory tube, it's one more structure included in the middle ear, with its cartilaginous bony part and this one narrow part isthmus. The main role of this part is to have ventilation and balanced pressure between tympanic cavity and external environment, atmosphere. And one opening of this tube is in the tympanic cavity. The second is the pharyngeal opening that is directed to the nasal part of pharynx. The auditory tube forms the part of the musculotubal canal of temporal bone. Internal ear. Internal ear is also called as labyrinth. There are 2 parts of labyrinth, the bony labyrinth and membranous labyrinth. So now I take it correctly in my hand, and we can see the anterior part of labyrinth, cochlea, the medial part is vestibule, and posterior part is called semicircular canals. Inside the bony part there is the membranous labyrinth. Semicircular canals, as the first part of bony labyrinth, are located in 3 perpendicular planes. The frontal plane for the anterior semicircular canal, the sagittal plane for posterior semicircular canal, and there is the horizontal plane for the lateral semicircular canal. Each of them has 2 crus. One is simple crus, and the second is ampular with enlargement, ampular. The anterior and posterior semicircular canals are fused together and they have one common crus. Therefore, there are 5 openings in the vestibule, because anterior and posterior canals, they have one common crus, one crus for the both canals. Vestibule and the lateral part of vestibule, there are 2 openings. There are 2 windows, oval window and round window. Fenestra vestibuli, fenestra cochlea. In the oval window, there is a base of stapes. In the round window, there is a secondary tympanic membrane. In the medial wall, inside, there are 2 recesses. One is elliptic, one is spherical recess. Elliptic recess and spherical recess are the places where the parts of the membranous labyrinth are formed. So the first is elliptic, the second is spherical recess. They are in vestibule. Cochlea. The base of cochlea is called the modiolus. I don't see it. Don't have it. Oh, this one. So it's called cochlear modiolus. Modiolus is formed by the bony structure with the apex directed laterally. Could you please remove? I show for everybody. And the base directed medially. From this part there is a spiral plate, lamina spiralis ossea, that divides the cavity of cochlea into 2 ladders, scala vestibuli and scala tympani. When we have the crossed horizontal section of cochlea, we can see these letters. So the superior one is scala vestibuli, and the inferior is scala tympani. This one is bony base, it's called Madelus. In the bony labyrinth, there is a membranous labyrinth, and inside the semicircular canals, there are semicircular ducts. Semicircular ducts are similar to semicircular canals by their location. In vestibule, there are the parts of the membranous labyrinth that is called as the utricle and saccule, connected between each other with the utricular-saccular duct, and connected with the endolymphatic duct, opened into the endolymphatic sac. In front of them, there is a Reunion's duct related with the cochlear duct. Cochlear duct is the part of the membranous labyrinth formed inside the cochlea. Well, we have the dissection, horizontal dissection of cochlea, and the wall of the cochlear duct has three parts. The inferior one is the basilar membrane, the superior is vestibular membrane, the lateral is called the vascular stria. The basilar membrane is the place where the hearing sensitive cells are located. The set of these cells is called the spiral organon. Spiral organon is created inside the endolymphatic space. All the structures of the internal or membranous labyrinths are filled with endolymph, while between bony labyrinths and the membranous labyrinths there is a space filled with perilymphatic space. This cavity of endolymphatic duct is filled with endolymph. In the endolymphatic cavity there is a spiral organon. It's Corti organon, consists of the hearing sensitive cells with the ability to transform the waves of the endolymph into the sounds or nervous impulses. They are related with the dendrites that get the information towards the spiral ganglion, the first neuron of the nervous hearing pathway. The axons of the spiral ganglion form the cochlear part of the eighth pair of cranial nerves. It enters the internal acoustic meatus. Then from the internal acoustic meatus they go to the cochlear nuclei of the rhomboid fossa. And in the rhomboid fossa there are two these types of nuclei, cochlear and dorsal. These cochlear ventral and dorsal nuclei related with the subcortical centers of hearing, inferior colliculae of midbrain and medial geniculate body. From medial geniculate body, the impulses go to the temporal lobe of brain, superior temporal gyrus. In the middle part of this gyrus, there is a cortical center of the hearing analyzer. But inside the internal ear, there are also vestibular receptors, which are responsible for balance. Two types of them. The first are ocellitic receptors formed near the maculas of utricle and saccule. They are for static balance of the body that is without movements in the space, stable. And the second is ampullar receptors, which are on the crest of ampullas of semicircular canals. From these receptors, the impulse is directed to the vestibular ganglion, located on the depths of the internal acoustic meatus, and from this ganglion, the impulses go to the vestibular part of the eighth pair of cranial nerves, terminated in the vestibular nuclei. There are four vestibular nuclei, superior and inferior, lateral and medial. and they are related with the wide places of the subcortically located vestibular centers, such as the cerebellum, anterior horns of spinal cord, nuclei of the third, fourth, and sixth pairs of cranial nerves, nuclei of thalamus, and directed to the cortical center of the vestibular analyzer, located in the temporal and parietal lobes. So next time you should learn this topic, yes, from your textbook. Your video are useless, absolutely useless, guys.
This is fun.
Absolutely, I don't understand why you do this video. Your information is in the textbook. Understand? So if you just watch this video, your mark will be 4 and less in the best cases. Understand? Textbooks, it's the main origin of knowledge, and I'm against to be on your videos. Stop to take this video.